Right, I'm back in action. So, been away for a month and we're back in the graveyard and we've got a big project to start today. So the big grave, the first one, I think the first video that I made, it featured in there. So it's like the biggest grave in the graveyard. It's really overgrown. That's what we're tackling today. So we're going to chop some of the bushes down and yeah, trim it all back and just give it a good tidy up. So that's today's plan. I'm going to call in the church as well because the church is open this morning and see if I can get a plan because a lot of people have been asking about stuff like that and it would be really helpful. So yeah, that's what we're on with today. So as you can see, I mean, well, you can't see, it just looks like a giant bush. So this is probably the biggest grave that we've got in the graveyard. Yeah, look how overgrown it is. This side is completely overgrown. We'll go around this side. So you can see it's pretty big. But yeah, really overgrown. Quite off-centre as well, but I don't think we're going to be able to shift it. But yeah, this is today's mission, is to trim back as much of this as we can and get it looking a bit tidier. Right, so chop loads of that tree away, tidied up, still a little bit more to do, but yeah, I'll show you what we've done so far. So I say we because halfway through my mum actually passed and she joined hand so she came and luckily she had some better cutters, so we chopped away a lot of the tree. So yeah, thanks mum. So on that same approach now, this was completely covered before. Now you can see the top there. Obviously this tree is really rooted in, so we won't be removing that, just trimming it down so the grave can be seen and appreciated. When we trimmed the tree back, we also found this. So it says Lionel, their son, born August 6, 1879. So this is nothing to do with this grave. This is from a different grave in the graveyard, and it's just been placed here or dumped here. So what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to try and figure out who this Lionel guy is and see if I can figure out if the rest of the grave is still in here. Lots of the graves, unfortunately, are no longer here. That was used to make the foundation for this path. So yeah, so back to this. So as you can see, I've chopped the height down. This was above the grave, so I've chopped this right down and I've cut it right back. There was another tree here, so I've chopped this right back to the little stump. Again, it's going to be tough to remove that, but at least what I wanted to do is expose the actual outside of the grave. I'm going to get some black Amorite paint and paint all this, tidy up a bit. But yeah, it's looking a lot better. There, you can really see the difference now at the front. Look at that. Nice grey skies, ready to rain. It was a nice day earlier. But yeah, loads better. There's another little stump here. We'll cut that right back and tidied this. So the plan is now to just put a little bit of slate or something here, some grey slate, something that doesn't look too out of place. And yeah, I think it looks much better. Let's get a little view of it with the church in the background. Look at that. Again, this is the biggest grave in the graveyard. When you look around all these graves, this is the big one, so it needs to look right, doesn't it? But yeah, still a bit more to do, but I think really that's a massive improvement. Right, so let's actually look at the grave itself. So it says, in affectionate remembrance of Fanny Louisa, the beloved wife of John Henry Fletcher, of Grove House levels. Born February 27th, 1856, died July 4th, 1885. So she was only 29 years old. So she died very, very young. Also of the above named John Henry Bletcher. He was born in 1854 and he died in 1928. So around 40 years later after she died. So as always, I've done my research, digging into who's actually buried here. So Fanny Louisa, the maiden name is Johnson, Fanny Louisa Johnson. So she was born in Missing, which is not far from Retford, and she was the daughter of George Johnson. George Johnson was a travelling brewer, so I believe that means he was more of like a salesman for a brewing company, travelling around, and that was his job. So she ended up getting married in this very church, St Nicholas Church in Thorne, in 1875. That is where she married John Henry Bletcher, who is also buried in that grave with her. So John Henry Bletcher was the son of a farmer, and he was originally from Huddersfield. But when he was 17, he was at Medge Hall. So if you go down Scunny Road, you will notice Medge Hall on your left. So he lived at Medge Hall with a man named John Smith and his family. Now John Smith was a farmer, and John Henry was a farmer in training. He went there, I guess it was maybe a friend of his father's, and yeah, he was learning to be a farmer. Then later he got his own farm, and that is where he lived with Fanny Louisa at Grove House. So Grove House, if you go down Scunny Road where the Black Bull is, if the Black Bull's on your right, look across to your left and you'll see a big white house. That is Grove House Farm. So yeah, they were farmers, and one of the records said he had 1,450 acres. He had 46 men working for him and 8 boys working for him. So he wasn't just messing around at the game. He was a pretty successful farmer. Lots of land, lots of people working for him in the area. Probably many people from Thorne, many families were working for him. And so I am told the Bletcher family still own farms that way on towards like Crowell area. So if you're related to the Bletcher family and you know anything about them, please get in touch. I always love to hear from especially relatives of the people who are here. But yeah, that is Fanny Louisa and her husband John Henry Bletcher. Like I say, John Henry, he died 40 years after his wife. She died only 29 years old. So yeah, very young, very sad, but again, very successful man. And obviously by the size of the grave, you can see that Fanny Louise obviously buried here first. So yeah, he must have had a bit of dough, and he wanted to give his wife, you know, one of the best graves that he could. So yeah, that's a little bit of background on them, but there is somebody else buried here too. But what I'm going to do is I am going to get some more stuff, get some of that slate. I need to get some weed killer and some slate, and yeah, and get it finished off, and then I'll tell you a little bit about the other person who's buried there. So tune in for part 2.